I know you probably want to get right on with finding out what the biggest problem in sales is, but first, tell me how you're doing in sales. Are you currently maximizing your income potential or your commission plan? Well then, I'm glad you're here. So where are you currently ranked amongst your peers? Don't worry, this is just between you and me. Sounds like you're doing okay. But my question is, do you want to stay where you're at? Or do you want to get even better than you are now so that you can make more sales, which makes you more money? The reason why I asked you is to have you reflect a little here. It's to help reveal what I believe is the biggest problem in sales today. Now, before I go over that, tell me, what do you think it is? What do you think is the biggest problem in sales today? Thanks for sharing your opinion on that. Write this down. The biggest problem in sales is the problem you don't know you have. So if you've selected I don't know, you're a bit closer to the truth. Let me repeat that. The biggest problem in sales is the problem that you don't know you have. Think about that for a second. If you don't know what your problem is, then how on earth do you know what to do to fix it? Now, once you learn what that problem is, whose responsibility is it to change your situation and solve the problem? Yep, you guessed it. It's yours. Now, I want you to know this. I wasn't always good at sales. First and foremost, I want you to understand that. The real truth is, I was pretty awful when I started. I got nonstop rejection. You see, when I started in sales, I was being taught traditional selling skills from my company and all these old sales gurus, and some of them would work, and I would go out and make a few sales. But I also noticed a lot of the techniques that they taught didn't work at all. And when I used them, I would actually lose sales that I should have made. Has that ever happened to you? You've seen that too. From my experience, people say it happens all the time. You see, we all have our own default skill level based on the training we received and the effort we put in to develop those skills. But if you've been struggling to close sales, I'm here to tell you, it's not your fault. Now, why? It's not your fault because you've been taught old, outdated sales techniques. These techniques were developed decades ago, and they very rarely work on most people in our day and age. Now, here's another question. What year was the first sales model ever created for salespeople? Now, if you don't know for certain, just take a guess. No, older. Try again.
Older? What the fuck?
Nope. Keep going back even further.
Mod.
Yes, 1898. Can you believe it? It was actually made by a gentleman by the name of St. Elias Elmo Lewis, who created what's now called the AIDA model of selling all the way back in 1898. It stands for attention, interest, desire, action. Now, here's an interesting question. Guess which sales model is still being used by 99% of salespeople today? You probably guessed it right. The same AIDA model of selling that was invented all the way back in 1898. I don't think they had cars back then. You might even remember the movie called Glengarry Glen Ross, just to see how this is so ingrained in our society. This is where Alec Baldwin's character makes the famous quote, "Sit down, coffee's for closers." Came out in the early 1990s. You see this photo? It shows what he actually wrote on the chalkboard, AIDA. You see that? Attention, interest, he put decision, should have been desire, and then action. See how it's all over the place? Now I want you to seriously think about this. Does the consumer of our time buy the same way or have the same buying behaviors as the consumer did in 1898? Now, before we get into why the consumer has changed, I want to tell you a little bit more about my background because my background relates to what is necessary for you to take your income to the next level in your sales career. But first, it's time for your first short quiz to make sure you're following along. Now, don't worry, it's going to be easy. You're going to do great. I'll see you soon.
I am so fucked. Biggest problem in sales. The problem you don't know you have. What form of the leverage? What the fuck does that mean? Fuck. Can you test? Okay. Okay. Okay, that's good.